Alright, y'all, welcome to my channel. This is Gen Z Finance. I am an older Gen Z here on YouTube showing my real numbers as I document my financial journey. So far on this channel, from when I started, I think I started this channel back in March or May, somewhere around there. My journey has been about getting out of my debt and my student loans, paying those off, as well as increasing just my cash savings. But as of the end of September, when I became officially debt-free, this journey is kind of switching from focusing on paying off debt to just focusing on increasing my personal finance knowledge in general and investing and taking the principles of FIRE and FI and applying them to my life and my finances. So the system I use to track my spending is YNAB, or You Need a Budget, which is what you see right here. In this video, we are going to do a review of my spending, savings, investing for the entire Q3, the third quarter of 2020, and do a little net worth update. So this is actually the first time that I'm doing a end of quarter review. So I'm really excited about how this is going to go. So I have done end of month wrap-up videos, and I'll link a couple of those up here at the top if you've never seen them before. So go look at that if you're interested in exactly what I was spending in July, August. I did a mid-month check-in for September, so if you're looking at a specific number and you're like, ooh, what did you actually spend your money on? Go check those out. But for this report, which is the income versus expense report on YNAB, we're going to be looking more at this average and total section. So in total, I brought in $11,000 in this quarter, and that's all just like my net paychecks. The vast majority of it, as expected, is for my full-time job, almost $10,500. Then I had about $580 from my part-time job, and $30 in interest from my high-yield, quote-unquote, high-yield savings and checkings account. This is the quarter that interest rates really started to plummet due to COVID. So $30 is way better than nothing. I'm not an interest rate chaser. I know there are people who do that, and that's totally fine. I think one day I hope to have the brain capacity to like keep track of all of that. But I just find I just have a credit union that I like. It is a competitive rate. It's just unfortunately all rates are low. So that's how I feel about that. So for spending $1,200 to my mom for the entire quarter, that's on track, that's good, that's great. I'm actually really proud that I've only spent $50 in subscriptions for these three months. That's just my monthly subscriptions, averaging out to about $17 a month. And I actually budget about $40 to $50 a month for subscriptions to cover both my monthly and annual subscriptions. So I think it's kind of funny how it's $50 for the 3 months, and that's what I actually budget per month. And it just so happened I didn't have any yearly subscriptions this quarter, so that was nice. Monthly varied. I don't love this $418 that I've spent, because this is a category where it's pretty much my discretionary money. I call it monthly varied, but a lot of people would probably call this like discretionary. Except I do have giving in here, which I'm going to try to find a better place for where to put giving in my budget, because I don't really think it should go under monthly varied, because again, it's more discretionary. But I did have, 400, or out of the $418, almost 200 of it, so pretty much half of it was giving. So I'm not going to be mad at myself that I gave a lot. I gave more in September because I got a bonus that month. But I'm fine with what I did with dining out. Other / miscellaneous is a bit high. I do allow myself $50 a month, and I came under budget every month. But this is definitely a category where now, especially maybe this quarter specifically, but all of 2020, when you compare it to my spending for it in 2019, which I will do an end of year review at the end of 2020 and actually go over in that and show you what I spent in 2019 versus 2020, it's definitely trending upwards. So it's a category I'm trying to keep my eye on. And then this fun category, I spend my fun money on books, and then a Taylor Swift sweater. but that's pretty much what I spend my other money on. A lot of books. Pretty much all of these Amazon purchases are books. So it's not a very distinct category. It's probably a category I'm going to do away with at the end of 2020, just because in my head I don't know what the difference is. Because again, all of these categories are kind of discretionary. So that might be a category I do away with, and that's why I really liked looking at this report, quarterly, because I didn't really realize that going month to month, but now that I'm looking quarterly, I'm like, it just makes no sense. So in my sinking funds category, I'm pretty okay with all of this spending. I'm never going to get mad that I'm spending money on gifts because I do budget $100 a month, and that's to cover all birthday and event gifts and then Christmas as well. So $173.89, that makes sense because I had my sister's birthday, I bought gifts for my mom's birthday, and then we also had my father's birthday, but I didn't actually get to see him for his birthday, so I didn't buy that gift, but I will be seeing him this month, so his birthday kind of spending is going to happen in October, but gifts is fine. And then electronics was so much just because I bought my new iPhone, so that's definitely not going to be an expense that happens every quarter or even every year, so I'm fine with that. I budgeted for it, I knew it was going to come when it happened, I paid for it in cash, so that's good. And then in my FIRE category, $1,500 to my Roth IRA makes sense. To max it out, I need to do $500 a month, which is what I'm doing. And then this was the quarter that I opened my M1 Finance brokerage account. I did $100 in August, and that was to set it up. And then I just decided to do $100 in September. But I don't think I'm going to be contributing much more to it for the rest of this year. That's just because we've got the U.S. presidential election coming up. And that, to my understanding, kind of makes the market a little bit more volatile. And I would just rather focus these next 3 months on building up my cash savings a little bit more in preparation for 2021, where I'm really going to hit investing a lot harder than I'm doing now. But at the end of 2020, when I look at kind of all my leftover cash that I can distribute however I want, I probably will make another deposit to this account, but I don't know yet how much that's really going to be. But I did $200 in Q3 because I set it up in August. And then in my student loan category, a Lannister always pays. Game of Thrones, obviously winter is coming. A Lannister always pays. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I've talked about this a lot in previous videos, but in July I became unofficially debt-free, where I had saved up the full $5,155 to pay off my last student loan, and then at the end of September I went ahead and made that payment to make me officially debt-free. So with that kind of big, ugly $5,000 number, it looks like my net income, which is what my income was minus everything I spent, looks like I only saved $1,600 this quarter, but keep in mind $1,700 of this almost $9,500 that I spent was investing, so that's good spending. And then the vast majority of this $5,000 was not money that I received this quarter. In fact, if we look back from January 2020 through June of 2020, and see in total I saved $10,800. About pretty much all that $5,000 that I spent in September came from this $10,000. So about half of this moved over to Q3 where I used it to pay off my student loan. So that's how I spent my money and all of my income in Q3. And now we're going to look at the net worth. So this is my net worth from February 2019 to September 2020. The important thing here and the exciting thing here is I have a $30,000 net worth now officially. This was my goal to reach by the end of 2020. So it looks like I've reached it a couple months early. And I now have made like a stretch goal for myself of $35,000 since I've met the goal early. But I'm not too worried about whether I meet that $35,000. Honestly, I'm focused on keeping my net worth just above $30,000 because I do now have quite a bit of spending coming up in Q4. Like I said, we've got Christmas still. I might need to purchase a new laptop. That's going to cost some money and definitely dip into my cash on hand. And then I do expect there to be some volatility in the markets just as the election nears, and then after the election where there's always like that confusion of, okay, who actually won, because this is too close to call and this is too close to call. So I'm not as optimistic about how the market will do in Q4 because it did really well in Q3, which we'll go over shortly. But if we look at just Q3, so I'm going to look at the end of June of 2020 through the end of September 2020. I increased my net worth almost $13,000. And the way I was able to do this is we had a 3 paycheck month in July. And then in August and September, I increased my 401k contribution from 15%, which it was from about April through July, to 19% in August and September. So that added extra money to my net worth. And then in September, I did get a relatively small bonus, but that also increased not just my cash on hand, but what I was able to invest that month into my 401k. So that is how this happened. And I'm looking at June because YNAB will look at the net worth at the end of the month, or at least I believe they will, because if I look at July to September, it's about $7,000, which I guess that makes sense as well. I'm not really too sure. I think they look at the net worth at the end of the month to determine it, so that's why I chose the end of June to look through the end of September. And what I did want to show you guys is actually how much I contributed. So if we look at my all accounts section, I have a filter up here to look at everything that I contributed from July through September. So this is the payee includes the word contribution, and it's an inflow. And if I select all, up here I contributed $4,072 into my accounts, and this does not include my M1 account. So if we add the extra $200 that I put in this quarter, it's $4,200 that I contributed over the 3 months. And here you can see the 3 contributions to my 401k in July. And then in August, you can see I started contributing to the Roth portion, 4%. And this includes my 401k, HSA, and then Bencor is the company that holds my tax-deferred account that I get as a perk for my part-time job. So those are really small contributions, but it's still something and it helps. And then if we look at how the market did, this is how I track gains and losses in my accounts. So overall this 3 months, I had $343 of gains across my various accounts. You can see August and July were pretty good months, and then September we definitely lost some money. But that's okay. And you can also see in August I didn't update all of my accounts perfectly. Like I didn't touch my Bencor account and I didn't worry about M1 Finance because the variation in those accounts was so small, it just didn't matter to me, but I did it for my main 3 big investing accounts. So that was what Q3 was for me. This, like I said, this is the first time I did a video like this, so let me know down below if you liked this video. Let me also know how your Q3 went and how you predict Q4 for 2020 to go. Are you optimistic? Or are you kind of pessimistic like I am? Like, honestly, I'm just trying to hang on to the gains I got now and hopefully not lose too much in the next couple of months, because that's kind of how I think. But I did want to point out, I'm still going to be investing, over Q4. I'm just not going to be putting too much in, like, my brokerage account. But everything that's going into, like, my 401k and IRA and HSA, like, I'm still investing with that automatically. I've set that up to automatically invest for the most part. So I'm just trying to build up my cash savings as much as I can these next couple of months. And then, like I said before, I hit 2021 real hard, or I'm going to hopefully hit 2021 real hard. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. Like I said, I think it's fun to do. I like to look at my finances, not just, on the daily or weekly, but also reflect on it monthly quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. I think all of those date ranges will give you a different idea of how you're doing and will point out different things to you, and trends just look differently based on a date range. So that was the idea with this video. And I've got a couple of really exciting videos over the next couple months as we get closer to the end of 2020, and I get to go over more of what my financial wins and what my goals will be for 2021 and how my budget will be changing in 2021 and all of that fun stuff. So if you have not already, please hit subscribe down below. Like I said, I've got a lot of content coming and you don't want to miss it. And then I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. Have a good day.